Today on the Ask BP podcast, I'll be answering the question, what are the hidden costs that a house flipper may not think of?
You're listening to another Bigger Pockets Ask BP podcast, where you'll hear short, direct answers to your biggest real estate questions. Submit your question today on Facebook, Twitter, or the Bigger Pockets forums by using hashtag AskBP. And don't forget to pick up your copy of The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing and other great content when you sign up for your free account at biggerpockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Brandon with the Bigger Pockets Ask BP podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the hidden mistakes that a lot of flippers just never think about, especially when they're just getting started. So the question actually comes from Melissa from Costa Mesa, California. And her official question is, what are the hidden costs that a flipper may not think about? So let's talk about those. Now, I can talk to this really well because when I was starting out flipping, and even up until every flip I've ever done, there's been things I forgot to account for. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to come from a standpoint of these are things that I have messed up on. I like talking about my mistakes because I've got a lot of them and I can talk for a long time on that. So first of all, the number one mistake I think that house flippers make is by underestimating the holding costs. Say that with me. The holding costs. He didn't say it. That's all right. So the holding costs are the things that as long as you hold the property for, you have to keep paying for. Things like the mortgage payment, the water bill, the garbage bill, the taxes, the insurance, all those things, they don't seem very much at the time. And when everybody thinks about flipping, they think in like terms of TV show flipping, right? Like, oh, I'll be in and out in like a week or two. But most people, when they're getting started, especially, might end up holding that property for 6 months, maybe a year. I mean, a lot of people end up doing that when they start flipping houses. They hold them way too long. And as a result, their holding costs, which they didn't even consider, end up being $5,000, $10,000, which can dramatically cut out your bottom line and what you're actually going to make. A few more things that people might forget about: permits. If you forget about a permit, that can actually, add hundreds, if not thousands, depending on what area you're in, to your bottom line as well. And a huge one. This is not necessarily a fault that people do, but maybe it is, and that is not thinking about the hidden costs of what's hidden. And what I mean by the hidden costs of what's hidden is the things behind the walls when you open them up, the things that are behind, that are in the attic that you didn't see, the things that are underneath the property that you didn't see. Anytime you open up a wall, you're going to find things. One time, true story, one time I was fixing up this house. It was like the Martin flip that I ended up spending 2 years of my life and wasted all this time on. And anyway, in that process, I took the Sawzall, this big giant saw in my hand, and I went and cut this wall directly in half. And it was kind of fun. Like, I just took this thing and cut it straight across. And then I took my foot and I kicked down the bottom half of the wall. And, it landed with a big crash, just boom. And when that happened, all of a sudden, like a slot machine, out of one of the cavities in the wall just came pouring forth dozens and dozens of adult entertainment magazines. True story. Just dozens of them. And so somewhere in the past, in like the early 90s, somebody must have been an event up there or something, just kept shoving all their old magazines down this, like the crack in the wall. And so anyway, it's not really a hidden cost, but it's a funny story, so I had to tell it. Another side thing on that, one of the things that fell out of the wall with that was actually a diary from like 1920 something. I think it was maybe 1932. Or something like that. Anyway, it was a diary from a young girl who had lived in the house way back then. It was like a scrapbook diary. I still have it. I'll actually write a post on BP about it soon. But kind of a fascinating story. Anyway, now those are the good kind of things that are hidden behind walls. Well, maybe good, maybe not. But I mean, those are things that don't hurt you financially. The things that hurt you financially are things like, oh crap, that's asbestos in that wall. Or, oh no, we've got some aluminum wiring. Or, oh no, we've got no insulation in those walls and I didn't realize that. Now I have to insulate those walls. And so this is another reason why having a good inspection is so important. By having a professional inspector. Now, they're not going to be able to see everything, I promise you that. But they can usually see some of those things like the aluminum wiring or the no insulation. They can usually find ways to tell that stuff out. And sometimes you just will never know. Honestly, sometimes you just never know, especially with old houses. On a house that's really old, you may never, ever know until you get into that property what's there. And so that's actually a good point. When you're flipping houses, when you're starting out at least consider the idea of not doing a 100-year-old house or a 60-year-old house. You got to deal with lead-based paint. You got to deal with asbestos and all that crap that there's so many like laws and do's and don'ts when you're touching it. It's a lot easier if you try to focus on the newer properties. Even if you're not going to make quite as much of a profit, when you're starting out, maybe try to focus more on that. And if you are going to do the newer or the older properties, that's fine. Make sure you budget for those big ticket items. Because if you forget to budget, set aside extra. So when I do a flip typically now, I'll take a good 10%, sometimes more depending on the age of the house, and just call it my like extra fund. And it's for those things that like when I open up a wall, I suddenly find out. Now, again, you can find out a lot, but you'll never know everything about a house. So it's always important to have those extra reserves just in case. So what are the hidden costs that a flipper may not think about? I think those are a lot of them. Another one I will end with this is taxes. You might think, woo, I'm going to make $20,000 on this property, but you're going to be taxed at a high, probably if you're in the higher tax rate, you're going to be taxed pretty heavy on that profit. And so you might end up losing 30, 40%, 50%, I don't know, of your profit that you just made, just gone out the window for your taxes. And that's kind of depressing. So make sure you include how much money you're going to have to pay in property taxes, or not property taxes, in how much money you're going to have to pay in income taxes in order to flip a house. Make sure you incorporate that into your numbers. Otherwise, you could be wasting a lot of time and in the end, not make anything. And I don't want that from you. Bigger Pockets, we're all about doing a good job at becoming a better investor. I don't want you to lose money. I don't want you to mess up on your first deal. So don't forget those hidden expenses. Now, what's a good way to make sure you get them all? Go on Bigger Pockets to the forums and ask for help. If you're just getting started, go ask for help. Find somebody who's done this before. Check out the book on flipping houses by Jay Scott. You can get it at biggerpockets.com/flippingbook. Best book I've ever read on house flipping. And it comes, when you buy that book, you get the book on estimating rehab costs with it. I mean, those two things right there will save you so much time and money and headache and everything else. So if you've not read those and you're planning on flipping a house, do not flip a house unless you've read those. Again, biggerpockets.com/flippingbook. And with that, let's get out of here. Our quote of the day comes from business guru, I don't know if you call him that, but Seth Godin. He's a cool guy. He used to run Yahoo, I think. Seth Godin said, instead of wondering where your next vacation is, maybe you ought to set up a life you don't need to escape from. Ooh, burn, right? So I actually semi-agree with Seth Godin here. I'm a huge vacation fan. I love travel and I love vacation. And I think Seth is probably a little bit grumpy here. Maybe he likes to sit in his home all day and doesn't like to travel. I think travel is an amazing thing. Why are you traveling though? Are you working a crappy job just so you can get your 2 weeks vacation a year so you can go out and travel somewhere just to escape life? That's what he's actually talking about here is don't have a crappy life that you only get a couple weeks, maybe 3 or 4 if you were lucky. Maybe the union gave you 5, and you have a crappy job just to get 4 or 5 weeks of vacation, whatever it is. Don't do that, right? Build a life for yourself that you don't need to escape from, that you can escape from, but you don't need to escape from to be happy. I love that quote from Seth. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Remember, in pursuit of your dreams, don't just learn, but take action. For Bigger Pockets and the Ask BP podcast, this is Brandon Turner, your host, signing off.
You've just heard another episode of the Bigger Pockets Ask BP podcast. Submit your question today on Facebook, Twitter, or the Bigger Pockets forum by using hashtag AskBP. And for more incredible real estate investing tools and education, including a free download of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, head over to biggerpockets.com and sign up for your free account today. We'll see you on the next show.